It's a king cat. It's been living in my hedge for 7 years, and it's in surprisingly good condition, so I'm going to do what I can to save it, because here at Tiny House and Off-Grid Resources, it's all about refurbishing, rebuilding, repairing and recycling, instead of buying a new one. My last video is going nuts. You people have got so many questions as to how I'm going to turn this old lawnmower into a 16 horsepower monster of wood chipping fury. Yep, I'm going to build this into a branch chipper and shredder. The shredding chamber is going to be where the old cutting deck used to be. The main feed chute is going to come straight through here, and I'm still going to be able to drive this thing to where I need it. Keep up with the project step by step on Tiny House and Off-Grid Resources. You don't want to miss it. Remember last week? I pulled this out from under the hedge. It had been there since 2016. 4 flat tyres and a flat battery, and nice living under the cover, and a whole heap of rubbish stacked on top of it. So I've now got it up to my workshop, and I'm going to give the thing a water blast and have a look at what I've got, because as you would have seen in that video last week, I've got something really exciting planned for this old lawnmower. Here in New Zealand, a 16 horsepower wood chipper is worth $5,000 to $5,500, which is just way beyond my means. There's no way that I could afford something that expensive just to only use it 3 or 4 times a year. So looking at this thing, I know I can do it. It's going to be a little different to most, because it's going to be orientated the total opposite way round. It's going to be a horizontal wood chipper instead of a vertical type wood chipper. There's no reason why it won't work, and the bonus is, once I've got this thing going, I'm going to end up with a mobile wood chipper that's self-powered. I can move it around the place. Now, it's got a horrendous petrol leak at the moment, so I've just turned it off and put a separate can of petrol underneath it, and we'll see how it goes. Right, you know what that means? That means that the project means that I'm going to have 16 horsepower of wood chipping fury that I can hop on and drive around the property to where it's needed. So I hope you can share my vision. There's an excess of space underneath now that the mowing deck's been removed, and I will be able to get at least a 5-inch deep mulching chamber underneath there. It'll feed through a hole that's going to go down in the footplate, and this raised section with the mud guards and the seat on it is going to be removed completely, and the guards will get cut off, and that centerpiece that the seat sits on, to me, looks like half a feed hopper. In fact, I'm sure that if I replicate it and put the two together, I'm going to end up with a big feed hopper, and that feed hopper is going to go vertically pretty much where the front of the seat is now, and the feed hopper will be removable, so I can sit on the stub of the feed chute and still operate those 2 foot pedals, the parking brake, the instruments and the steering wheel. So yeah, I can drive this thing around the property from job to job. Tomorrow I'm going to rip into it. Right, good morning recyclers. Here we are. I'm going to get into this thing, see how much damage I can do to it in one day. Yeah, I know. Why do you think I don't work for anybody else or have people working for me? I am not Mr. Health and Safety, but I'm still here after all these years and getting things done. So the first thing to do is get the wheel off, and then I can have a look and find out where all the welds are, hold it all together and start cutting through them. So the first thing I see is this raising and lowering mechanism for the old mower deck. That'll need to go. And I can see that there's some rivets to drill out, so we'll take those out. That'll remove the little shroud that's around the lifting lever. About the only piece of plastic on the entire mower. These things were great. They were locally made. These things about 25 years ago were made in the next town to me. And they were known, or they became known, as the stock car of lawnmowers, because everything was either 16 gauge sheet steel or 1/8 plate. They were a very, very solid lawnmower, and that's why this thing is still around after all these years. But over the years, I've gobbled up my lawn and replaced it with sheds and driveways and extra accommodation, and I really just don't have the need for a ride-on lawnmower anymore, so it's sat around for all this time. Finally, I've had an idea of something that I could utilise it for, so I'm really excited. Right, ripping into it. Cut all the way along the seam on both sides, and then I'll remove the guards, and that hump in the middle that the seat sits on is going to become half of my feed hopper. I'll just replicate the shape of it and then weld the two pieces back to back, and I'll have a nice big chunky feed hopper that I can shove branches and shrubs down into. Because now that I've got Anna living here, we're doing a lot more gardening, and I know that we're going to end up with loads of extra stuff that needs to be chopped up and got rid of. Well, the weather's gone nuts again, but I'm not going to let that stop me. Between rain showers, I'm going to finish slicing here, get it ready to peel back. Here comes the rain again. More than one person has said to me that 2023 is going to be the year without a summer for us. It's absolutely crazy. We had about 3 days of decent weather at the beginning of the holidays, and then this crap weather started and chased everybody home from the holiday spots. In fact, I know a guy who's got a general store at the beach, and he bought $17,000 worth of ice cream and ice blocks because he knew he needed it. He hasn't sold any, so if anybody wants cheap ice cream or cheap ice blocks before it expires, they'd better come and see me, and I'll put you onto him. Right, you can see what I'm doing. Once I've got this off, it'll start to happen. Right, are you watching? Are you watching? Are you watching? Here we go. This is what's going to happen next. Can you see it? No, bit steeper, bit steeper. Yep, more angle. That's more like it. Now, can I still drive it? Oh, yeah, park my ass on here. I can still use the pedals. I can get the steering wheel past my gut. Right, we're back into it. It's now a few days later. I've pulled the cover off, and yeah, there's a bit of flash rust over the areas that I've ground back to remove the flaking paint and the heavier rust. I've mocked up where the chute's going to go, and I can show you the driver's position in a minute. It's not going to be something that you'd want to spend all day on, but I will be able to move it from place to place. So let's have a look at this mock-up I've done, show you exactly how it's going to be. So these will be the dimensions of the chute. Here's just a bit of scrap stainless steel that I've put there so that I can visualise how it's going to be. The hole into the chipping drum down the bottom will be smaller than this. It'll fit down between those frame rails. The chipping drum is biased over to the left hand side of the mower, so that on the right hand side I've got more room to put in the outlet chute. The outlet chute is going to come from about here and head out and finish about here. You can see that there isn't much room for me in here, but I don't care. It's only for moving the thing around. Of course, I'll be putting a piece of panel steel over here. I'll probably take these mud guards off and refit them lower down so that they're functional again, and of course fill in this piece here. The chipping drum isn't going to be quite the same dimensions as this tyre, but it will be the same diameter. It's going to be 700 millimeters in diameter, which is the same size as the commercial 16 horsepower ones. While it's been raining over the last few days, I've been doing a bit of research online to find out just how the people who build these things commercially do it. So it won't be as deep as this. It'll be about 120 millimeters deep. That's 5 inches. This tyre we're looking at is actually 7 inches deep. So I'm going to have more ground clearance than what you see here. I've also been looking online to see if I can find somebody who does the flywheel and bearing assembly as a spare part at a reasonable price. Because I've got no facility for doing any machining, I don't know how I'm going to do the metal work on the inside of here. The steel fabrication around the outside of the cage, the drum itself, that's no problem. I've got a plasma cutter, I've got a MIG welder. So over the next few days, what I'm going to be doing is hanging back on the actual manufacturing of the drum down below. So I'm going to be concentrating on fabricating the chute and getting the body and chassis ready for a fresh new coat of paint. I fixed the dramas that we were having with the fuel tank. Turned out it wasn't a cracked plastic fuel tank. It was the little grommet that holds the fuel tap in, that you can see through there. The grommet had perished because of the fuel sitting in here for 7 years. Stale fuel is obviously quite hard on rubber grommets, and the fuel was just leaking out of there. So one little rubber grommet, that fuel tank's fixed and ready to go again. The engine, we've already proved that the engine works. I will need to shout at a new battery, but in the next video I'm going to be concentrating on doing the tinware, making this seat turret into a feed chute for the shredder. This is only going to be half of it, of course. The other half of it, I'm going to use my favourite source of sheet steel, washing machine bodies. I've got 2 more sitting over there somewhere. I'll sacrifice one of those to the cause, and that will make this piece that's going to go around here. And yeah, I think this is going to cost me a few dollars, because I'm going to have to pay someone to do the machining for me. And I'll either buy the big heavy flywheel as a spare part from some other manufacturer, or I'll have to pay somebody to make that piece for me. Whichever way I choose to do it over the next few days, I can assure you that it's going to be really, really interesting to keep an eye on. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, why not do it now? That way you'll get a notification that tells you when the next one of these interesting videos is about to happen. And I'm not going to finish up by saying, and I'll see you in the next video, because I won't. You'll see me in the next video. Think about it.